Welcome to Conquer Your Finances, Conquer Your Life. I'm your host, Dawn Santoriello, and each and every week I'm here to empower you to live a happier, healthier, and wealthier lifestyle. Today we have an interesting guest. His name is Frank Segarra, and he's from ConnexiCore. So ConnexiCore is a company that is a national cloud technology and information solutions service provider and consulting firm, and they're based out of Pike County, Pennsylvania. So today I'd like to welcome the president and founder, Frank Segarra.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your background, where you started and how you ended up as a technology world leader.
Sure. Well, my background goes back to even my preteen days. As a young kid, 10, 11 years old, I was interested in CB radios back in the 70s when it was Breaker 19, you know? And I had a CB radio, and I would talk to the local people that had CBs. But I wasn't really satisfied with the amount of coverage I was getting. I was only able to talk about 3 or 4 miles, which is the legal CB rate. So I started to study up on electronics and communications and how to modify transistors and amplify the CB radios. And I created this device called a kilowatt amplifier, which gave me the ability to talk what we call skip radio. And skip radio basically tenfolded my power on the CB radio, and I was talking to countries like Australia, Philippines, Thailand on the CB. Now, unbeknownst to myself, that was illegal. You weren't allowed to modify an FCC product for transmission. So I was doing it for about 6 months, and lo and behold, we get a knock on the door, and it's the FCC.
Oh boy.
And they thought I was an adult, doing, a broadcast that was illegal. And it turns out I was an 11-year-old boy, and it was kind of a funny thing that, I was modifying CB. So they gave me a slap on the wrist and said, don't do that anymore. And I was like, wow, I couldn't believe the FCC was on my back about it. So that got my interest early on in my life in technology. And over the years, I continued to work towards, communications and play around with radios. And my stepfather talked me into joining the Navy, and actually utilizing my inquisitiveness for technology and utilizing it in the military.
And it seems like it would be a great fit.
Exactly.
You have to go play with all those gadgets, and it's not illegal. The FCC is not going to come and show up and try to arrest you.
Exactly. And I ended up in a avionics field, which is aviation. I was on the USS Kitty Hawk, and I was a fire control technician, which basically they monitor reconnaissance, they monitor fire control, so the systems that load armament and actually guide missiles, things like that. So I spent my time in the Navy, and that's really how I got my bread and butter technology background. And then once I got out, I continued and forged forward.
So how do you think that background, the military experience, helped prepare you? And what can you say to the young kids out there who maybe are like you, they want to go and get into this kind of field? How did that,
Sure.
What advice do you have for them?
For young kids today, obviously, if your family can afford school or you can get a scholarship into college, that's great. But if you happen to be an unfortunate, teenager who can't afford it and your family's not able to, the military is a fantastic option. The Navy really taught me a lot about discipline, regiment. It taught me to be independent. My entire life was in a sea bag. I traveled around the world in the sea bag, and that nature, that environment helped me mature as a young adult. So for teenagers that maybe don't have the ability to go to college, joining the military, taking the test, and actually picking out their occupation is a fantastic way to mold them into, future leaders, I believe.
Yeah, you get the great training, the discipline, which it seems like a lot of people lack discipline these days.
I lack the discipline big time, yes.
Yeah. And I remember my dad, when we were young, he was in the Army, the end of World War II and Korean War. He was like, okay, girls, 8 o'clock Saturday morning, knock on our bedroom door, get up, clean the house. I'm like, it's a Saturday.
Yes.
Kind of relax.
What's funny is I still, to this day, I do all the ironing in my family's house. In my house. My kids say, Dad, can you iron my shirt? Can you iron my pants? My wife is, please iron for us. And that's a Navy thing, it's something that you pick up and it's inbred in you.
Yeah. So now, I know back in 9/11, that was a major tragedy that happened for the world. And you have a very interesting story of, could you tell us about that, where you were and what happened to you?
Sure, wow. 9/11 was a crazy time. So at the time I was working for Samsung. I was a director of sales. I was opening up their North American piece of the business here in America because they had a product over in Korea that they wanted to, break into North America. So on September 9th, I boarded a plane to head for San Francisco with 2 other Samsung executives. We flew out to San Francisco. We landed. It was a Sunday. Monday we had our training, which was in San Francisco. And then Tuesday morning, I received a phone call in my hotel room about 6 a.m. And it was my wife saying that you got to put on the TV. There's something crazy going on in New York. So we put on the TV, and I'm watching everything actually happen on 9/11. And it was so tragic. So everything got canceled as far as Samsung seminars and things like that. So I was just stuck in my hotel room. Eventually I moved down to the lobby where everybody was just watching it up on the screen. It turns out when the Flight 93 that crashed in Pennsylvania crashed, that information came back on the TV, and it turns out we were on Flight 93 on September 9th.
Wow.
And I still today have that ticket stub. And my colleagues, we were in shock. We got religion at that moment.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, like 2 days, a matter of 2 days.
It was
changed your whole entire life.
It was incredible. So I knew I had to get home. So I rented a car from Enterprise Rental, and I drove from San Francisco to New Jersey in 44 hours. And I had the 2 Samsung executives with me during our ride. They taught me Korean. I taught them Christmas hymns in American. It was interesting. It was a very funny ride, but ultimately, it was an amazing experience. In fact, after I got back from the trip, they bought disposable cameras, and I got this magazine from Samsung in Korea about a month later, and it was pictures of me driving and pictures of the people who were with me at Samsung. And they posted this in their magazine, which is like the largest company in South Korea. And they called me a hero because I drove across the United States and I saved them. I don't know if I saved them, but
still, like that's
yes.
Great. So out of something tragic came something good.
Sure, I made very good friends, and it really changed my life spiritually. That whole experience was just incredible.
And we'll get back to that in a moment, but right now we have to take a break. So please don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back talking more with Frank Segarra. Welcome back to Conquer Your Finances, Conquer Your Life. I'm your host, Dawn Santoriello, and I'm here with President and Founder Frank Segarra from ConnexiCore. So before we went to break, we were talking about how that 9/11 experience made you more spiritual. Could you kind of elaborate a little bit about that?
Well, obviously, it was a very devastating day in America.
Definitely.
It certainly made, my military experience just kind of come back to me, and thinking that, wow, it's really nice to be an American. And as I was driving back across the country, seeing all the flags hung, and as I got closer to the East Coast, where obviously that all happened, I ended up getting invited to a Yankees game by Mayor Giuliani. It's just everything in my life just changed, and I remember walking in the door, and my son was 6 months old, and watching him run across the floor saying, Dad, he had no idea what happened. And today, we talk about 9/11 like it's almost like this is part of our spirituality within our family. But I thought, at that point, it was like a milestone in my life to maybe start thinking about, life is short, and anything can happen. So make the best of what I can, make the best of, and take advantage of opportunities as they come.
Yeah, it's like you realize how precious life is, and okay, what are you going to do to change the world?
Sure.
And that's what you're doing now too. So you had a steady, good job doing the Samsung, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, going to go do uncharted territory and go out there on your own. So how did you do that, and what was going through your mind?
Well, what was interesting is after 9/11, the economy just tanked for several years, and we found traveling at Samsung very difficult. So I kind of saw the writing on the wall. There wasn't going to be a lot of advancement at Samsung just because of the default situation that was at hand with the country. And fortunately, I was picked up by a software company in 2001 in December called Synexus Technology. They were a startup company in Boston. They found me on LinkedIn, and they recruited me. So I left Samsung to come on board to start a business from a startup. It was a $70 million backed company, and I had all the tools now to really make a change in a startup environment. Super successful there. You know, I brought the business out to the marketplace, brought the brand awareness out to the channel that I worked with, and a lot of the channel was, you know, Avaya, Cisco partners around the country that saw our technology as being cutting edge. So I did that for almost 16 years as the VP of sales there. So that was kind of my introduction into really managing and being a leader, and primarily working in the software world where, you know, I was now a vendor, a supplier of software. And that was quite successful. I enjoyed myself quite a bit there.
So yeah, you got to learn a lot about that, and then you took your experiences now to forming your own company, ConnexiCore.
Yes.
So elaborate more about what exactly do you do and how can you help clients?
Well, when I left Synexus, this whole world of telecommunications, you keep hearing on TV and in print the notion of the cloud. You know, everyone's in the cloud. IBM's in the cloud. Microsoft's in the cloud. The cloud really is a viable environment today. So technology goes out to the cloud. It's being hosted somewhere else. And if you're not a company embracing the cloud and that type of technology, chances are you're going to become antiquated. Mm-hmm. So I saw my company really not moving in that direction, Synexus at the time. So I said, you know what, I have the experience, I have the diligence, the regiment, you know, born in me, start my own company. So I started ConnexiCore primarily to bring cloud technology from relationships I've developed to my customers that I've established over the last 16 years. And what I did was I initially started with cloud, and then all of a sudden this drone technology started to really increase, and the interest in drone technology. Then finally the FCC loosened up on regulations and allowed commercial enterprise individuals get licensing to be able to fly drones. So being an ex-aviation person from the military, for me it was a natural fit because I always loved that area of the business. So I started a drone division at ConnexiCore. And ConnexiCore, we are primarily consultants and providers of cloud technology. And what is in the clouds? Drones are in the clouds. So we kind of look at drones as being very bleeding edge. There are a tremendous amount of use case studies that a lot of folks don't know about that just need to be educated on as far as the drone industry. There's a lot of hobbyists in this business, and there's also a handful of commercial operators such as us. And we're trying to spearhead that effort and really make an impact in the industry.
Yeah, and it's great you guys are proven to be leaders, because this is great. Like everything you had culminated since you were that 11-year-old boy,
yes,
now to having this whole company, everything coming together. That just like must be an amazing experience for you, and just getting all that combined, and now you're doing what you love, and now you're going to be helping people. So give us some examples of the use case studies, scenarios, how this applies.
Sure. Well, you know, drones with the technology itself, you know, DJI being a very large, in fact, DJI being the market leader in drone manufacturing, they probably own 75% of the market share. They've done a wonderful job with architecting technology with kind of an artificial intelligence spin. So if you take a drone and you have the right type of software enabled within that drone, you combine the two and you could do quite a bit of different applications. So for instance, if I was an agricultural farmer and I owned 100 acres on a farm, and we were going into a drought and I have no idea what my irrigation is doing on that farm. So I need to start looking at, am I using too much irrigation? Am I not using enough irrigation? Traditionally, a farmer would go out and stick a thermometer in the soil and take soil analysis that way. With drone technology, with the right software enabled, you could do crop scouting and actually do thermographic imaging on that crop and see where the dry spots are and see where maybe diseases are within the crops and irrigate accordingly. So you can do crop analysis with the drone. So traditionally, it would have taken a week to do an analysis on a 50-acre field. With the drone, you can do it in 30 minutes and save, thousands of dollars of wasted irrigation.
And all that time and more
time and effort.
More productive, and it helps the farmers, it helps everybody.
Absolutely. In construction, you can do site survey work, progression survey work on a construction site. Let's say that a developer owns a large construction site. They live in Los Angeles, the construction site's in Chicago. We could do progress analysis for them by flying a site survey for that project and streaming back that video and that data allocation back to the owner, who can now say, my project is underway, everything's progressing nicely, instead of necessarily flying out and walking around and consuming time.
Yeah, that's
sure.
Great. I love it. I love this.
Yes.
But we have to go to another break. But don't go anywhere, because we'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Conquer Your Finances, Conquer Your Life. I'm here with Frank Segarra, and we're talking about the cloud technology and drones. So before, when you were talking, it reminds me of the show that I'm watching on Netflix called The Messengers. So they have these drones, and they're making smart rain, but it's in the wrong hands. So they're actually killing crops and trying. So that's kind of, there's a good and bad kind of thing with drones, I guess.
Absolutely. Drones can be used by the bad guys, but carefully monitored. Drones are out there and they're in FAA space. They can be picked up pretty quickly by the FAA if somebody's illegally flying. I try to look at it as a positive thing. There are always going to be bad people out there.
Yeah.
But drones today will help many industries. So for instance, in the insurance industry, what happened with the recent hurricanes that just came by in the Gulf Coast states. There were a lot of areas that were impacted so bad, human beings couldn't get to these sites. Insurance companies were being overwhelmed by claims requests, and the drone industry really started to kick in down there for simple inspection purposes. Flying out to the house and actually coordinating with GPS saying, hey, my house is truly underwater, here's the timestamp on it.
Yeah,
so those are the things that are good for drones and technology. And again, the bad guys will always find some way to utilize the technology to hurt us, but I like to concentrate on the positive
think about
things.
the good positive
Absolutely.
things. This is amazing how efficient, and most people are afraid of technology is, we're going to lose jobs, but it's actually creating more jobs and becoming more efficient, because I always believe that too. The efficiencies actually help, and they will create jobs. You can't always replace, because now you need the people trained, the pilots, they have to be certified, knowing what to do and how to.
Absolutely.
So it's just like when one way goes, a new form of technology comes in, and it's actually better for the whole world and everything.
Sure.
So now, how would you say ConnexiCore and these drones, how do they interface together?
Sure. So obviously drones work with remote controls. Remote controls communicate to the drones. We have a product and a service called ConnexiCore Cloud. And we're adding people to our network, our drone network, by recruiting people from around the country to join us with the right credentials. And we're giving opportunities for other pilots around the country to fly missions for us. So we have a software product that we've branded, and it's ConnexiCore Cloud. That allows pilots to do a cell phone tower mission for us in Idaho. And we program the coordinates into that particular mission. The pilot shows up on site, launches the drone, logs into the portal, and the drone flies the waypoints that we program ahead of time. So that's a job for that single pilot that he didn't have prior to coming in communication with us. So the drone technology has really advanced quite a bit, and the fact that software in the cloud, we're kind of overlaying the cloud technology into this new artificial intelligence technology and bringing it to the benefit for various industries. So drones, I think this is just a beginning. You're going to hear a lot more positive things about the technology, ConnexiCore Cloud, and other players in the industry that are taking advantage of the technology.
I think this is a great service and great business that you have going. What does the future look like for you?
Well, the future is bright. You got to wear shades.
Yeah, no. Exactly. That was a good one.
No, the future is great. I see the proliferation of IoT as a service, IoT being the Internet of Things, connecting multiple devices via the Internet, and ultimately the Internet is the cloud. Drones are just a component of it, and the fact that drones have this kind of artificial intelligence built into the software inherently if that artificial intelligence is communicating to cloud intelligence, now we have benefits. I mean, Amazon's talking about launching drones for delivery. I don't know if that's going to take off very quickly, but I see the future. You know, you look at the bell curve, and right now the adoption is huge. And we probably have, 5 or 6 years of early adopters, both corporate people as well as pilots, embracing the technology. So I feel good. I'm happy to be in this point in my life with my company. I welcome anyone to visit our site, ConnexiCore.com. Take a look at some, drone case studies. Contact us for demos, things of that nature. I'd be more than happy to educate anyone on the technology and, bring them under our umbrella.
Okay, great. So do you want to say that website again? And if you have a phone number you want to give that
Sure.
out? Just tell
It's
everybody where to find it.
ConnexiCore.com. We're at 800-874-9640. Again, my name is Frank Segarra. I'm the president and founder of ConnexiCore, and I'd love to talk to anybody who's interested in drone technology.
Yeah, well, this was so great. Like, I didn't really know about drones, so I kind of learned a lot today.
Sure.
So I want to thank you for being my guest.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Yes.
And hope to see you in the future.
Sounds good,
We're
Dawn.
like, it seems like the Jetsons is here now. Like everything like
Jetsons.
is coming here. The future's here. All right. Well, tune in next week when we can continue to empower you to live a happier, healthier, and wealthier lifestyle. Have a great day.